Okay, let's get started. Let's go around and do names. I see some new faces, so I can continue working on your names. Last week was pretty wild, wasn't it? I've never had a semester like this one. It can only get better from here, you know? Okay, yes, let's go from here, and then we'll go around and I'll work on names again.
Mason.
That's right. Okay, thanks, Mason. Good. Yes, sir. Austin, that's right. Gotcha, Austin. Okay, and Kristen. Yes. Okay, I remember. Okay. Sean, good. Thank you. Kobe. You were not here last time. Okay. How do you spell your name, Kobe?
K-O-B-E.
What's your major?
Business administration.
Sweet. Good to have you in the class.
What is that?
Zach, you were here. Good to see you again. Jada? What's your last name, Jada? Jada. Oh, we've been in email correspondence. Good. Good to meet you. Glad that you guys are out of quarantine. Yes. You were here, Serena. It's good to see you again. And Ben, you were here as well. Okay. Good deal. Okay, a quick question for you guys. Were you guys able to access the videos? Yes? Okay. So some of the videos corresponded to materials that I had uploaded during week 1, like the Volkswagen case, for instance. Do I need to go over any of that again, or should we move on to new stuff? Do a real quick review? Okay, sure thing, for sure. Okay, so what I was trying to do mostly last week was just give us a real quick taste of some issues in business ethics as we get started dealing with more systematic issues. So pull out your business ethics in action texts, and we'll read in the first chapter about some of these cases. Remember, our course is partly theory, partly practice, and so it's sometimes case-driven. I talked in the video last week about the Arthur Andersen case, which was the accounting firm that was the auditor for Enron. And I talked about some of the incentives that they faced in their relationship with Enron and how those incentives led to extraordinary destruction for the firm. Because the incentives led the management of the accounting firm, Arthur Andersen, to decide to sign off on books that were pretty clearly fraudulent for the sake of retaining business. I also talked a little bit about, in the video last week, about the conflict of interest issue that Arthur Andersen faced. The larger issue, perhaps, is best looked at on page 12 of our text. The larger issue that can be found in the Arthur Andersen case. And I'm looking here at the bottom. In the short term, unethical behaviors, such as abusive labor contracts, fraud, bribes, and embezzlement can lead to profits more readily than fairness can. However, such conduct runs the risk of losing the confidence of those affected or of others who have observed the conduct. In some cases, such practices can even lead to costly legal penalties. If a public scandal ensues, the loss of reputation can be dramatic. Drastic action, as well as the investment of much time and money, might be necessary to recover credibility and trust. And let me stop there. That's the common theme in the cases that we looked at in the first week. We looked at the Ford Pinto case, the Arthur Andersen case in the video, and then the Volkswagen case also in the video. And the common theme is just this. It is pretty clear in most business situations that short-term profits can be better achieved by virtue of cutting corners and treating people like cattle and doing deceptive things. But it's also pretty clear from these particular cases that we observed that when this knowledge of this gets out, it leads to long-term pain. So the short-term management practices in these companies led to immediate financial rewards, but long-term damage, serious damage, almost brought Volkswagen down, and it did destroy Arthur Andersen, the accounting firm. and didn't quite destroy Ford, but it was very bad for them. That can actually lead to much greater longer-term consequences than would otherwise be the case. Reviewing a little further, one other thing that I emphasized in the first week as we were talking about incentives is how in capitalist economies like ours, there are different kinds of influences, some pushing companies toward more ethical management, more ethical decision making, others away from it. And the examples that I used were customers. Do you guys remember from the video? Did you see that video? The one with the customers and government regulation, yes? And I talked about reputational incentives and stuff. Okay, so just to summarize that for those of you who weren't able to see that video, there are certain incentives like cost cutting from ownership that tend to, not always, but tend to incentivize ethically unacceptable behaviors because management's under pressure to produce more profits in the short term. There are also at the same time countervailing incentives like reputational incentives from customers or like regulations from government that tend to influence in the opposite direction and promote more ethical behavior. Okay, I simply articulated those ideas just as a way of getting our feet wet and a way of understanding a little bit about what this course is going to be about. We're going to start talking a little more systematically today about more fundamental theory issues. But notice on page 37, before we do that, the little diagram there. This is a nice little diagram talking about some of the pressures that the business enterprise is under and where the incentives come from and what those incentives are like. Okay, I see a bunch of people with their books. Austin, Kristen, books? You guys have books? Yours is in the mail? In the mail? Okay, I have, for those of you who ordered online, I have uploaded scanned chapters for the first couple weeks. So you guys can access those on Blackboard. It should be through the end of this week, I think. And everybody should have their books by the end of this week? Yes? That shouldn't be a problem? Okay, good. What I want to cover today in today's material, we're moving past the review now. What I want to cover today is some theory talking especially about the purposes of business. Okay, so our first module this semester is going to be focused primarily on what the point of business is, what the purpose of business, okay, is. And I think that that's something that will become clearer for all of us in the course of our time in this first module. Let's take about 2 minutes and pull out your notebook. And I want us to start this class by writing down our thoughts about why we want to go into business. Most of us are business majors. Most of us who aren't business majors, a very few of us are not, but most of those who are not business majors will be running businesses at some point. Why do you want to go into business? What's the point? Like, why is this your aim professionally? What do you intend to accomplish? What goals have you set for yourself? Why and how can you justify this as a professional choice for your professional life? Okay, so let's take 2 minutes and let's talk about why I want to go into business. And by that I mean write down your thoughts on that. If you have more than one purpose, 2 or 3, that's fine if you put those down as well. About 30 more seconds. Okay, let's hear some answers. What are some reasons why people want to go into business? Jada?
I said I'm myself a marketing major, and so I figure you market yourself in every aspect of life. So while I might not quite have narrowed down where I want to go or what field I want to go into, if it's marketing myself to seem more appealing or marketing a product, I figure I can go into nearly every field.
Okay, so one reason for the major that you've chosen and also for going into business is the breadth of options that it gives you. I think that's a great reason. So it's good to choose a professional track where you have a bunch of different ways you can go, pivoting this way and that depending on general social trends, your own interests, family needs, things like that. I think that's a great reason. Good. Breadth of options. Other reasons why you want to go into business. Yeah, man. Go for it, Sean. Personal satisfaction. Oh, customer satisfaction. Great reason too. Okay. So helping others is the thought there? Okay, and let's articulate that for a minute. Is the idea to come up with products or services that will give people satisfaction, improve their life experiences maybe? Something along those lines? Okay, good. Do you have work experience so far? Where have you worked? Air traffic controller? No way. I doubt if that is widely shared. That is great, man. And that's definitely a profession that gives you great social usefulness, knowing that you're actually very much improving the lives of the customers. Good. Okay. Good. You were in the military. That's right? Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Other reasons why you want to go into business. You guys might be afraid to say the reason that probably most of us are thinking implicitly. Yes, Kristen. Okay, it gives you opportunities to learn, continually learn. I am learning so many new things every day, and I've been doing this for many years. And it's really good to choose a profession that gives you opportunities to learn more every day. And definitely, depending on the part of business that you go into, that's something that is very much possible. Good. Ben?
Money is the biggest motivator, so everything obsolete.
There you go, man. I'm surprised that was fourth. Making money, okay? Yeah, for sure. Just because this is ethics class doesn't mean that I'm not in favor of that. I think that that's a great goal to have as part of business. In fact, one of my aims this semester is to convince you guys that you can be both ethical and financially successful simultaneously in business. A lot of people don't think that. For some reason, maybe it's just a general impression or something. There's this popular idea that in order to get ahead in business and do well financially, you have to dupe people or you have to deceive or something like that. But one of my aims this semester is to convince you guys that you can actually treat people with respect, treat customers with respect, and simultaneously make a boatload of money and be very financially successful in ways that benefit yourself, your family, and your friends, your community. Good. Any other reasons? One or two others? People I haven't heard from? Serena, Mason, Kobe, Austin. Anybody else?
I'd like to. Oh, you got it. I was just gonna say I like to eventually see like the overview of like a company. I like to see like the kind of like behind the scenes.
See behind the scenes. Okay. Help me understand that reason. So is that like a continual learning reason, or is it like overview of the company? Do you mean like management?
Yeah.
Oh, so you want power?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sorry if I put it that way. Is the truth? Okay, don't we all secretly want power? Yeah, so we all want power to do good, but power nonetheless, right? So what can I say about that? Definitely the business world is a world that is hierarchical, for sure. And it is a world in which you have a variety of different people working together for common goals, whether that's a business aimed at producing a particular product, Apple making its iPhones or something like that, or for services. And in order to coordinate people as they work together, some people need to be in charge. And I think it's fine to aspire to be that person if you have good ideas and organizational skills and can help things work better. I think that's perfectly fine, and I think it's justifiable. We all know, though, of course, there is unhealthy aspiration for power. And one of the things I do hope to make clear in the course of this semester is when that natural, healthy ambition shades over into unhealthy drive for power. So I appreciate your articulating that. I think it's good to want to aspire to management, to aspire to a leadership role, because that will, if you've got contributions to make, I think that's a great thing to aspire to. At the same time, it is dangerous, because wanting power for the sake of doing good is very closely related and can easily shade over into wanting power just for the sake of having power. So one thing we are going to explore this semester is when those two, where the line is. Okay, I think this is a good set of reasons for going into business. There are a few more we, of course, could articulate, but continual learning, helping others, making money, aspiring to leadership, offering oneself a variety of options in life. These are all good reasons for wanting to go into business. Okay, I want you to keep those reasons in mind as we talk in today's, the theory component of today's lecture, about what the purpose of business itself is. Okay, so this first exercise was to try to determine what our individual aims are in going into business. What is my purpose in going into business? Presumably, by understanding what we are hoping to accomplish professionally in the course of our professional careers, we can better understand how to get there, and also better understand how to get there in a way that is moral and is, I'm a Christian, and is consistent with my Christian faith, or is consistent, for those of us who are not, with general ethical sensibilities. Okay, I want to take a moment, and before we unpack the Friedman article, which is uploaded on Blackboard, we'll all access it in just a minute. I want to take a moment and I want to talk a little bit about why businesses exist. Okay, so, well, let me just talk it through and then I'll draw a little diagram. Why do businesses exist? Why don't we all just work individually to make products? Why aren't we all just individual operators? Why do people work in teams to make particular things or to offer particular services or provide informational content? Yeah?
It could be because you might bring something else to the table that I'm not able to bring.
Okay? People have strengths and weaknesses. We supplement each other's strengths and weaknesses by operating in teams. Okay, I like that. We're almost there. Good. Anybody else? Why do humans work in teams? Yeah.
Efficiency.
Great. I love that reason. And I think that's kind of what Sean was getting at, because when we supplement each other's weaknesses with our own strengths, greater efficiency is achieved, for sure. Okay. One of the great founders of capitalist economies was Adam Smith, a dude named Adam Smith. And he was an 18th century thinker, lived a long time ago. And Adam Smith articulated in his famous book, Wealth of Nations, it's actually got a much longer title, but it's known for short as the Wealth of Nations. He was trying to inquire into why some peoples are wealthy and prosperous and others are not. He articulated two basic theses in Wealth of Nations. Okay, one thesis was exactly what we were just saying. Okay? It is that when human beings work together, we can each specialize in a particular task, and together, each of us doing our own specialty, we can form common groups that accomplish much more. Okay, so his concept was specialization. Okay, and just as Sean said, we each have strengths and weaknesses, and when we specialize in our strengths, and others specialize in their strengths, and we pool together our operations, a greater good is accomplished. The pie that is produced is a bigger pie, so to speak. Okay, specialization was one of Smith's ideas in Wealth of Nations. The other one was competition. Smith asserted that competition is actually, for society, an incredibly constructive thing. When human beings compete with each other, they are naturally motivated to work harder, to find innovative solutions, to be more efficient, and to do a variety of things that bring about a greater social good. So imagine an economy in which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe more companies, all made up of individuals specializing in what they do best, but each of these dots represents a company. Imagine that all these companies are making shoes, and each one is competing against the others. Maybe they have particular specialties. One is especially successful at making sandals. Another is especially successful at making Air Jordans. Third is especially successful at making high heels. They all compete with each other. Maybe sometimes they branch out into areas that aren't their particular specialty. But on the whole, they are all in the same industry. Smith's idea was that when different companies, and individuals for that matter, compete against each other, a greater overall social good is achieved. Imagine this is firm A making shoes B and C. And B comes up with an innovative way to streamline the shoemaking process that drops the cost of the supply chain. A and C, competing against B, realized that B is going to take market share because that set of lower costs in the supply chain is something they can pass on to customers and charge less. Customers, of course, voting with their feet, will want to go where the price is less. A and C innovate in response to B, dropping the costs of their supply chains by copying B's efficiency innovations. And maybe C goes even further and says, well, we can beat B. We can do better than B can. We can come up with this other efficiency gain that B never thought of when they achieved their original efficiency gain. And over time, a better overall outcome comes to be achieved because as each one of these companies, A, B, C, D, E, competes with each other, cost gains are realized, efficiency gains are realized. The society as a whole, thinking in terms of maybe customers and the society as a whole, the society as a whole gets shoes for less. It gets shoes that have greater quality. Remember, they're competing on quality and not just cost. I used cost as an example, but they're also competing on quality metrics as well. They want customer loyalty. To do that, they've got to provide a product that will be not only cheaper, but also reliable. And when each one of these firms competes against the others and tries to win, as it were, the overall social good is improved. Okay, so Smith's two ideas then were specialization, when we each do what we do best, we benefit and society benefits, and competition, when we compete against others, we benefit, you make more money if you're the winner, and society benefits because the product is produced more efficiently, reliably, maybe with a better overall outcome. Okay, did everybody follow that discussion? Okay. The purpose of business then, the reason why a business exists at least, we haven't quite gotten to what businesses should be aiming at, but the reason why a business exists seems to be, if Smith is right, because when human beings work together and do what they individually do best and compete against other teams of people that are made up of individuals who are doing what they do best, overall social gains are made. We have an incredibly prosperous society right now in America. I know we're in a deep recession. I know there's a lot of uncertainty following the pandemic and all. But step back, look at things from a big picture perspective, compare the society that exists in America right now with all previous societies. Even in spite of the deep recession that this country is in right now, if you compare the prosperity levels of people in this country to all previous societies, we are vastly, vastly more prosperous. And it seems to be in large part because we have embraced an economic model that enables us to work in teams doing what we do best and rewards us for it, and pits different businesses against each other in ways that promote healthy competition. Okay, so to sum that up, and then I'm going to ask if there are any questions or comments so far about the lecture. To sum that up, the reason why businesses seem to exist is because it's better for the people operating in the businesses, the employees, the management, the people who are doing what they do best, specializing as they can. This is all theory. I'm not talking about individual cases. Because it's better for them, and also because it's better for the collective that they exist. Questions or comments so far about any of these ideas? Okay, now that maybe we've articulated why businesses exist, what the reason or justification for their existence is, let's talk a little bit at this point in the lecture about what businesses should be aiming at. What should be the goal that management should be directing this efficiency-gaining team toward? What should be the aim of business? Okay, and I want you to open up your devices. Again, this is not normal, since normally I'd like you guys to be placing your devices face down in front of you on the table. Did I remember to mention that last time? Okay. When you come into class, please place your iPhones, whatever, your Android phones, whatever, place them face down on the table in front of you, if you would, please, normally. But today, open up your devices, go to Blackboard. We're going to look on Blackboard under Module 2 or Week 2. Actually, just Week 2, I think, is I don't remember how it's quite identified. But look at the Friedman article that's uploaded there. And we're going to look at how one very famous economist conceived of the purpose of business, what businesses should be aiming at. Okay, and I'm trying to confine all of my board notes just to this location because I'm trying to video all this. That's why I'm staying behind the lectern and so forth. But I'd like to, let me do this. Everybody's got this Adam Smith discussion. I'm going to erase this. We're going to be running a real short board this semester. We'll just sort of, once we get stuff on the board, it'll be erased pretty quickly. So if it's not in the notes, you know, I have to get it there quickly. Okay, I'm going to erase this. and I'm going to talk a little bit about how one very famous economist, Milton Friedman, probably the second most influential economist of the 20th century, the first is John Maynard Keynes, Milton Friedman conceived of what businesses should be aiming at. Okay, so I need a couple of readers. Actually, you know, I might have to do all the reading this semester since it's not going to get picked up on the video if you guys are reading. Okay, sorry about that. But so it is right now. Okay, so I'm just going to have to do the reading. Look at the bottom of page 1. And we're going to read together a couple paragraphs here, but I would ask you guys after today's class to be sure to read the entirety of the article so that you can conceive of the connections between these paragraphs. I'm looking at the bottom of page 1, the paragraph beginning in a free enterprise. In a free enterprise private property system, a corporate executive is an employee of the owners of the business. He has direct responsibility to his employers. That responsibility is to conduct the business in accordance with their desires, which generally will be to make as much money as possible while conforming to their basic rules of the society, both those embodied in law and those embodied in ethical custom. Of course, in some cases, his employers may have a different objective. A group of persons might establish a corporation for an eleemosynary purpose, for example, a hospital or a school. The manager of such a corporation will not have money profit as his objectives, but the rendering of certain services. In either case, the key point is that in his capacity as a corporate executive, the manager is the agent of the individuals who own the corporation. All right, let me stop there. Friedman conceives of the hierarchical structure of business for the purposes of this article in the following way. The owners of the business are the ones who pony up the capital. They're the capital providers who offer the business whatever credit or equity, ownership, whatever money is needed to get the business going. And then Friedman is saying management then runs the business. Now, of course, in many businesses, management and owners are one and the same. But he's conceiving of something like a public corporation where maybe you have shareholders who are offering equity and then management who's actually making day-to-day decisions. And the owners provide management with money. This is the money arrow. And managers should do, as a result, what the owners tell them to do. So, in addition to providing money, the owners also, rightfully, according to Friedman, have influence. It's kind of a one-way street for Friedman, on Friedman's conception of what businesses should be aiming at. Moreover, he also says, and you can read the article, please do so after class, he also says that the great majority of the time what the owners want is making money. And it's perfectly fine for management to aim at making money if doing so is what the owners desire and is in keeping with the bounds of legal regulation. So in Friedman's conception of things, unless it's something like a hospital or a school where the owners intend the enterprise to be something like charitable work, the point of the business, what it should be seeking or aiming at, is making money as the owners desire. Let me read a paragraph again on the next page. Second page, the paragraph beginning, of course, the corporate executive. Of course, the corporate executive is also a person in his own right. As a person, he may have many other responsibilities that he recognizes or assumes voluntarily. To his family, his conscience, his feelings of charity, his church, his clubs, his city, his country. He may feel impelled by these responsibilities to devote part of his income to causes he regards as worthy, to refuse to work for particular corporations, even to leave his job, for example, to join his country's armed forces. If we wish, we may refer to some of these responsibilities as social responsibilities. But in these respects, he is acting as a principal, not an agent. He is spending his own money or time or energy, not the money of his employers or the time or energy he has contracted to devote to their purposes. If these are social responsibilities, they are the social responsibilities of individuals, not business. Okay, let me stop there for a minute and explain what he means in this paragraph. Imagine your manager working for owners, using their capital most of the time, since this is almost always what they will want, to make money for them. As an individual on his own time, the manager can use his salary, whatever stock options he's offered, to give to charitable causes, or to do social good, protect and preserve the environment, offer after-school programs. Maybe do some aim other than making money. This is on Friedman's view. As an individual, he could do that. But as a manager of a company, that's not what he should be aiming at. It would be wrong for him to take shareholder money and to say, I'm going to do as much as I can to promote the welfare of this forest or this wetland. If the owners, the shareholders, are desiring that he make money with the money that they have given him. Everybody track that? On Friedman's view, it's wrong for management to do something other than make money if the owners have given him capital in order to do that. But as an individual, he could pay extra taxes if he wanted. He could give to the church if he wanted. He could do what he wants with his money on his own time. All right, let's take a minute and pause and analyze this understanding of what management should be aiming at and of what businesses as collectives should be aiming at. Is this a convincing account of what management should be doing? Is it unconvincing? Are there strengths? Are there weaknesses? What do you guys think? It's a very famous account. I'd say about 50% of business instructors subscribe, in American business schools, subscribe to Friedman's view of what's the aim of the business should be. What do you guys think? You can look at the article, that's fine, if you want to look at the paragraphs we read or other parts of the article. Any thoughts on this so far?
Overall, you say management should accomplish what the owner desires because the owner has given them the capital to do so.
Yeah.
Like that's over. I would agree. Like as long as you're staying in the legal bounds set, and they've given you what you needed to accomplish it.
Okay.
That would be your goal.
Okay, good. Yeah, well spoken, thank you. Good. Yeah, Serena.
So basically, the maybe I'll just like not making money. So the owners are giving management money to run their like the owners. Is it?
Yeah, on Friedman's conception of it for the sake of this article, remember lots of times management are the owners in a private corporation or something like that, but like a public corporation, where owners and management are separated. Management should do what owners desire, and as public corporations, that's almost always to make money. Yeah. Mhm. Okay, good. I want to make a couple observations about Friedman's view. Friedman's view is a very famous view. About 50% of people in American business schools subscribe to Friedman's view. Okay, it's not my view, but it is a very common view and convincing view, I think. It's an owner-centered business model. The owners are the primary stakeholder class that matters when it comes to dividing up the pie that is gained by the business. The business, remember, is around because of efficiency gains, specialization gains. It creates a bigger pie by being around. And the owners are the ones who are, on Friedman's view of things, or they ought to be, the primary recipients of the gains that are made and of the bigger pie. But not everybody sees it this way, and a couple of observations about why. One observation is just this. Do underprivileged people get helped on Friedman's view of things? He has a place for them to be helped. Management in an individual capacity as an individual citizen. But in practice, a lot of people have observed that this actually is unlikely to happen. All sorts of surveys show that the wealthy, as a percentage of their income, tends to give less than the poor do. As a percentage of their income, your average, I'm just speaking generally, your average person making $350K a year is going to be giving less than your average person making $70K a year. Do underprivileged people actually get helped on Friedman's model? I think some people definitely as individuals would give to help community causes, to help the environment or underprivileged people, give to the church, things like that. But I think most probably wouldn't. And the observation of a lot of critics of Friedman's view is that his model of business behavior and of what management should be aiming at ends up shortchanging the underprivileged. Okay, imagine, maybe if you can't see it yet, imagine this. On Friedman's model, a company that, say, markets as close to the line as possible to full-blown deception might be perfectly justifiable if doing so will maximize profits for ownership. Okay, as long as they don't actually go beyond the bounds of the legal rules. If they're trying to fool people without, officially telling a lie, or if they're trying to shortchange customers as much as possible without, officially producing a product that's going to collapse the first time you use it, Walmart. Anyway, if they're trying to do that, on Friedman's view, it is acceptable for them to do that because they are aiming at the right thing, making money for owners. And if they think that the best way to make money for owners is to try to dupe people or come as close to the line as possible, or to try to, offer products that are deficient in quality or something like that, then that's acceptable. That's perfectly justifiable, morally speaking, on this conception of how businesses ought to run. Okay, but that gives a lot of people pause and makes a lot of people trouble, because you don't want to have business management all over. I know that management actually does do this all the time, but ideally speaking, you don't want management to be constantly trying, antagonistically as it were, to dupe customers or to relieve vulnerable people of their money or something like that for the sake of benefiting ownership. Ideally, I mean, I hope we think that aspirationally, we want to set up an understanding of business that's like what Sean was articulating, where customers are satisfied and there's some sort of a gain for the collective. We don't want to set up a society where each business is trying to compete with each other business so as to best fool the vulnerable or something, which seems to be completely justifiable on Friedman's view. Okay, so that's one criticism. A second criticism of Friedman's view is that it promotes selfishness. And certainly in business, you have to think of self. If you want to stay in business, you need to be profitable. And making profits is by definition thinking of your own well-being. You have to think of self. But at the same time, the criticism here is that Friedman's view promotes selfishness to an unhealthy level. Thinking of self to an extent that ultimately is damaging, both to your own character and to others around you. Okay, we've all met people who are deeply self-absorbed. It's incredibly unattractive. We have ourselves, all of us, many times done things that do damage to others because it will benefit us. Okay, I myself have done this many times. And ideally, again, you don't want a business model that says that, greed is good, or selfishness should always be aimed at, even if it means doing harm to others. So this criticism is a little bit different than this first criticism, since it highlights character. We're not quite done yet. It highlights character and the damage done to character. And this one highlights the damage done to others. But the core idea is the same. And the criticisms combine in the idea that Friedman's view is perhaps not the best thing that management should be running the company for the sake of. Okay, but at the same time, a lot of people in business schools agree with Friedman and say money making for owners should be what management should be aiming at. There is an alternative view. It's called the Stakeholder View. It's the view we're going to explore next time, and it's an alternative conception of what companies should be aiming at in the course of their operations, so as to benefit both themselves, others, the community, all parties. Okay, let's take a quick break now, or I guess we're done for the day actually, so let's go ahead and split. But I will see you guys Monday. Watch the video for Wednesday and you'll learn about the stakeholder view from the video on Wednesday, okay? You guys take care. God bless.